Hey fam, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another chapter reading of The Witness Wore Red, the 19th wife who brought polygamous cult leaders to justice. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we jump into chapter 19, Zion Rising. That night, I called my mother to arrange to see her once more before we left town. Honey, why didn't you give up your phone at the funeral? She asked immediately. Willie told the bishop that you and Elisa were combative and refused to give up your phones. Ask Randall, Mom. Then you'll get the truth. The next day, we met her at the park again. There to greet us was a large, menacing GMC truck with a lift kit, enormous tires, and tinted windows. I had dealt with the God Squad before, and while I refused to be intimidated, it made Mom very nervous. Then a car pulled up beside the truck, and the driver stared over at us. It was my cousin, Russell Allred, a son of one of my Uncle Richard's wives. I felt the fire rise up inside of me again, and despite Mom's protest, I got out of our car and approached my cousin. Yeah, because you're not going to keep on using intimidation with me. I am here, I'm doing what I got to do, and you are here being a menace, as usual, to society. But you sitting here trying to intimidate her isn't going to work. Good for her. Is there a problem here, Russell? I asked. Well, hello, Mother Becky, he said, stuttering a little. I know you were sent here to watch us. No. He started to protest, and I put my hands up. Look, we're just here for a few minutes. Who do we need to talk to in order to placate people? We're not here to cause trouble. Oh no, Mother Becky, it's not a problem, he protested. But as I went back to our car, Russell stayed the entire time. This time, the weather allowed us to take the boys to the playground. As she pushed Kyle in a swing, my mother looked at us mournfully. Uncle William sends his apology. I appreciate that. Thank you, I replied. Is the truck part of the apology? I have something for you, said Mom, changing the subject. She went to her car and brought back some granola. In the FLDS, when someone dies, people not only bring dinners but also bags of granola or bread to assist the grieving family. We could tell she was trying to soften us, as her conversation turned again to dropping the report, and her nervous behavior made me think that she was under orders. To me, there's no point in meeting with her mother, because her mother very much so is going to do whatever they tell her to do, even though it could be hazardous to her kids, even though it could put her daughters in harm's way, even though it would probably result in her daughters being AR'd, just like Alyssa was, and even like Rebecca was. So I don't see the point in meeting them, but I guess for her, she's doing this because she loves her mom. Let me keep going. Thank you, Mom. Please know there would be no problem if we could just have contact with the girls just once. Resigningly, but tenderly, Mom reached her hand out to caress my cheek. I don't think your story is completely told, she whispered. Perhaps Mom hadn't believed all the vicious, ugly rumors Warren had delivered to the people when I left. God will be the judge, she murmured, as much to herself as to me. Then she glanced over at the truck and sighed quietly. She reached into another bag and presented each child with a gift. As we drove away from the park and from Short Creek, Kyle cradled the brown teddy bear she'd given him in his arms and hugged it to himself often, naming it Grandma. We didn't know it was the very last time Kyle or I would see his grandmother Wall. I don't think she's passed. I think it's just that they're no longer going to be allowed to have contact with each other under orders. And it's interesting to see the shift in that, right? Over the next several months, I learned what it would take to be a realtor. Very few people in Idaho knew about my background, but my network of professional associates and friends was growing. I found myself enjoying the fullness of friendship that life had to offer. My communication skills flourished, and for the first time since leaving the FLDS, I felt confident enough to speak with people from all walks of life on a professional, if not personal, basis. Elisa had been maturing as well, building her life with Lamont and the baby in southern Utah. One day she called me with news that made me almost drop the phone. She had finally decided she might pursue a case against Warren Jeffs. I knew it took a lot of courage from her. She was still only 19, and she had endured so many situations I wouldn't wish on a grown woman. She asked me to accompany her to meet with Joanne Shooter in Baltimore, and I agreed. Joanne, Joanne Grant, get the word out, girl, gently answered many of Elisa's questions, but Elisa still felt too scared to take action because unfortunately one of the things that has to happen when you talk about these type of cases is that at some point the person who was assaulted and mistreated and abused and all these other things, the survivor has to go on the stand and recount those very painful things in front of an audience of people. And because of that, a lot of people don't come out because not only are they forced to relive that crime, but they're forced to relive it in front of some of the very people who caused it in the first place. It's a lot. It's an emotional thing. On the way back, we discussed the ramifications of testifying as well as the statute of limitations, which would run out 4 years after the first offense in 2001 if charges were not pressed. Why is it after the first? I would think it would be after the last, but that's what she's saying. Elisa did wish to press charges, but for several days she couldn't gather enough courage to pick up the phone. She didn't want to cause trouble or hurt our mother, and her fear of law enforcement was deeply entrenched. I understand not wanting to hurt her mom, but I don't understand not wanting to hurt her mom. Are you get what I'm saying? I get that they don't want to hurt their mother, but in them remaining silent, it leaves room for other people to be hurt. And their mother obviously is very ingrained in this and probably to this day is still a part of this community and this belief system. So at this point, it's not about the ramifications of your mom. It's about protecting all these other young men and young women who, if they don't have something in place, that Warren Jeffs will still be able to have access to. And I know he got locked up, and from what I understand, he's still running things. But I think that this case did prevent some of his access. But you guys let me know what you think. Finally, Cole called her and said bluntly, "Look, the only way we can stop this from happening to Sherry and Allie is if you press charges." I volunteered to find out what she would need to do in Washington County to file. Terrified for herself, but hopeful for our sisters, she agreed. During that summer, Ben and I watched Kyle grow, which was about all we had left in common. It had become clear to me that although my husband had no desire to rejoin a polygamous religion, part of the culture had stayed with him. He confessed to me he wanted to engage in a polyamorous relationship. Oh boy. Oh boy. Soon it became apparent that he didn't want an open marriage, but rather he wanted to experience more than one woman for himself. Confused and heartbroken, I shut down inside and questioned my value as a woman who couldn't keep her husband satisfied. Baby girl, it is not about you. And I'm saying that and you're older than me. My point is, it is not about you. It is about him. And I don't know what's come of them, but I hate that this usually happens where a woman questions herself or when someone questions themselves because their mate wants to seek other people. A lot of times it has nothing to do with you. It's them. It's something in them. This hit home several days a week when I would arrive home from work to Ben asking if I had found another woman to bring with me. As I looked around, I saw a pattern in many former FLDS men as well as men in mainstream society who jumped from mistress to mistress or one sexually driven relationship to another. I knew it was not just men, but they often played a more active role in the desire. Was this something women just had to endure? Or was this an unhealthy, clear sign to get out of my marriage? That thought was almost as frightening as leaving the FLDS had been. One early morning in August 2005, as we were leaving for a trip to visit family in Salt Lake, Ben fell asleep at the wheel and we got into a serious accident. To our relief, Kyle was not injured. I sustained some severe injuries to my knee, and Ben was deeply affected. The young and generally invincible man I married no longer seemed that way, and it seemed like a sign to stick beside him. Our marriage rebounded for a brief moment, but by the time Kyle and I went to Coos Bay to perform Christmas Opry, I was ready for a break from Ben's continued request for lovers. It's just so selfish. Because if he wanted that, he should have said that to her before they got married. Not let's now bring this up after the fact. But he's so accustomed to a society where women really have no choice and they just do it. It's like, did you really want to leave? Because you're still trying to implement a lot of the things you were taught. I don't know. I'm not feeling Ben right now. I'm not. In early 2006, my little sister Amelia left the FLDS and her home in Bountiful, British Columbia, and came to live with us in Idaho. Her turmoil was written on her face, and my heart ached for her, not just because of the trauma of leaving the church, but because she had young children she was trying to gain custody of. When any woman with children left the FLDS, she didn't have to take on just her former husband, but the wealthy FLDS church and its seasoned, well-paid lawyers. Amelia had a long road ahead of her. Despite being on the run, Warren wielded tremendous power, and it felt like he could get away with just about anything. He continued to elude officials, although his brother Seth was caught trying to bring him over $140,000 in cash, multiple cell phones, and letters from loyal followers, all of which were seized by law enforcement. Seth only got his hands slapped and was let off, which made me mad. That's the problem. There seemed to be like a lot of officials in that area who just didn't take this seriously enough. That $140,000 constituted the tithes of some very hardworking families, and Seth knew it. What did Warren need that kind of money for? I wondered. In April 2006, I read in the paper that Washington County Attorney Brock Belknap had charged Warren with 2 counts of rape as an accomplice, a first-degree felony. First District Court Judge James E. Schmidt signed a $50,000 reward for Warren's arrest. I hoped that would spur someone to turn him in. A month later, just before Ben and I brought our first home, Warren made the FBI's 10 most wanted list. The reward increased from $50,000 to $100,000. Warren's undercover games, his continued refusal to show up for depositions and the court proceedings, and his flagrant disregard for the law had finally made him a prime target for the feds. His reckless abandon spoke volumes of Warren's desire to be known as a martyr for his people, and unfortunately, it was working. During this time, many thousands of members remained intensely loyal to him, a loyalty only intensified by their distrust of the government. The search for Warren was heating up in Utah and in Texas. There were times that the sheriff, Duran, was almost certain Warren was on the ranch. Judge David Doyle and Kathy Mencken did periodic flyovers to check on the secretive sect. I wondered if they ever saw my sisters, but no news ever came in of the girls. In the early summer months of 2006, Ben's little brother Wendell was kicked out on orders from Warren, and he came to live with us for a time. Unlike Scott or Ben, Wendell had been he was devoted of Warren, secretly entrusted with the care of many of Warren's wives in houses of hiding across the West. It was in these remote and various shelters that Warren placed massive amounts of his growing harem of wives away from the law and prying eyes. Wendell told us that Warren had been amassing even more wives than his father had, perhaps more than 100. He did know that some of his recent wives were as young as 12 years old. Oh my goodness. 12 years old. And you know his nasty butt did things to those 12-year-olds. It's sick. It's so sick. How can y'all think that? I don't understand how anybody could think that any of this is right. I really don't. I struggle with that. And I'm trying hard not to judge. But part of me, if I'm being honest, is judging this. With deep sadness, I listened to stories of twisted behaviors Warren used to belittle his wives, to pit them against one another, so as to dissolve any solidarity. Wendell said that Warren kept them focused on his desires for them. Each had to be tiny and rail thin and ready to give herself as a comfort wife to him at any moment during his underground flight. Wendell knew about only a small portion of Warren's activities, as the prophet deliberately shared with each devotee just one piece of the intricate puzzle he was constructing. I couldn't be sure about his first and second counselors in the presidency, but others were clearly left in the dark. Wendell talked of his secretive missions across the United States, following the prophet's paranoid and urgent whims. After receiving calls in the middle of the night, complete with code words, disguises, and directions, Wendell would leave in the dark, drive to whatever remote location his prophet requested, and pick up one or more of Warren's wives to transport covertly from one location to another, and then start all over the next night. Warren had a complex system of technological communications, phone, video, and emails, with which to give his directives to his people and to his web of personal emissaries like Wendell. Oh, wow. Living at a house and hiding in Colorado, Wendell followed Warren's orders to the letter, but all of the secrecy was taking its toll. As a caretaker, he was required to be a father figure, strong and pure in the sight of the Lord, and not to allow his thoughts to wander into lust. In other words, he couldn't have women, I'm guessing. He just had to watch them. Loyal and obedient to Warren's every directive, he was caught up in the web of Warren's self-created drama and mystery. Wendell struggled from the same high level of anxiety that Warren's wives did. A young man, he also missed the camaraderie of his brothers and friends, but absolute secrecy was essential for the protection of the prophet. Once in a while, Wendell would go for a drink to relax or drown his loneliness. One night, after a week-long trip to Utah and Wyoming, he stopped at a bar for a couple of drinks. A few hours later, he was pulled over and charged with driving under the influence. Although he was released from jail 2 days later, when he went back into the house of hiding where Warren's wives resided, a stranger answered the door. His own wife and child were also missing. Oh, so he did have a family. Frantically, he put in a call to his father and to Lyle Jeffs, and was coldly told to go home to Short Creek and repent from afar. Isn't it interesting how we know that the prophet and his father and whatever were drinking at different points too, because it was said. But they're mad and he's getting punished. Not that he wasn't wrong, because you shouldn't be drinking and driving, but they're going to punish him by taking away his family and making him repent. He quickly discovered that not only had his wife and new baby boy been taken from him, but the Bishop of Short Creek had already placed them with another man. You got to be kidding me. In 2 days? In 2 days, they tore apart this family and made this man be by himself and relocated his wife to another man. They really take ownership of these women. I couldn't do it. Wendell was not allowed to see them or know their location. All he knew was that his wife had been instructed to burn all photos and letters from him and to treat him as if he were dead. This is her husband and the father of her child, and she has to burn up remnants of him because she's told to do so. It wasn't until that moment that he realized just how thoroughly he had been used and manipulated. All he had ever wanted was to bring honor and salvation to his family. He was heartbroken. As I looked at my brother in law, I wondered if Warren's power to destroy families would ever end. Unfortunately, it was just the beginning. Oh, he's awful. He is awful. Let's go ahead and read chapter 20. Purgatory for a Prophet. On August 29th, 2006, I was taking a lunch break with colleagues from a real estate class when I received a call from Sheriff Durant. Excuse me. Quickly, I excused myself to step out. Becky, did you see the news? Warren Jeffs was caught last night outside of Las Vegas. I sat down in shock. Warren had been on the run for so long, I hadn't been sure this day would ever come. Duran told me that the Nevada Highway Patrol had pulled over a brand new red Cadillac Escalade with paper license plates during a routine traffic stop. So you're in Vegas, you're in a brand new Cadillac Escalade, which you probably bought with cash via the money from the people that you got living like they're paupers because you've taken all their money as tithes and poured it into yourself. Yeah. But they don't know any of this stuff because they don't get to watch TV. They don't get to see all the things that are going on. It's just, yeah, I hate it. I hate it for them. Anyways, Warren's brother Isaac was driving. Warren was in the passenger seat. And Naomi Jeffs was in the back. I don't think I said his name right. Alexa, how do you pronounce Naomi? Why should she be cutting up like this? Naomi Jeffs was in the back. The trooper did not recognize Warren, but got a feeling something was wrong because Warren was nervously shoveling his salad into his mouth and wouldn't make eye contact. Most conspicuously, the carotid artery in his neck was pumping like crazy. The trooper separated Isaac from Warren, and when they each gave him completely different stories, he called for immediate backup. From there, the officers began a thorough search of the car. First of all, Duran told me, the red Escalade was a new model 2007, worth at least $55,000, and it had been paid for in cash. What did I say? Second of all, they had found at least $54,000 in bills in that vehicle and more envelopes with more letters and cash from his followers. There was also a police scanner, 15 cell phones plus walkie-talkies, laptop computers, credit cards, and keys to several other luxury vehicles. So this man is supposed to be in hiding, right? Oh, woe is me to the prophet who's hiding. And it's because of all of the bad things that we've done. And we're over here fasting for weeks and months at a time to make things better while you out here just enjoying life and getting to do whatever you want in luxury cars at that. It's just, and they don't know any of this. Let me keep going because I'm going to go down a whole tangent. Okay. So they have wigs and sunglasses and all kinds of accessories to keep them unrecognizable. The list went on and on. Just as when Seth had been pulled over, there were multiple bundles of sealed letters to Warren pleading for his prayers for their family members. It made sense to me that the people were corresponding with the prophet while he was on the run. They still needed to show their loyalty, and they hoped their heartfelt pleadings to God would be heard through their prophet. Becky, he added soberly. Warren had slit the envelopes open, only far enough to get the cash out. He hadn't read a single one. Are we surprised? Because I'm not. Because it was never about ministry. It was about control. It was about money. Much like a lot of things that go on in this world, unfortunately, in this situation, it was about money. I bit back the bile creeping up my throat. One part of me wanted to scream for joy that Warren had been caught, but a tear slipped down my cheek in frustration for all the pleadings Warren couldn't be bothered to read. I thanked the sheriff and we sat for a moment thinking. Perhaps now the people would see Warren for what he really was. I prayed that this would be the crack in the foundation that would send his whole charade crumbling down on him and free the people I still loved. I let Ben know, and then I called Wendell. Remembering how you said that Warren told you God will sweep the wicked off North America before he allows him to get caught, I asked him. Yeah, he said, why? He's been caught. Are you serious? Wendell began to laugh, almost uncontrollably. He'd been out only for a few months, and it was sometimes still hard for him to believe that Warren's words weren't the true and holy revelations, as he'd always been told. The sheriff reported to me later that 10 sets of keys to other luxury vehicles had been found in the car, including a brand new Porsche. Y'all, why don't the people I hate that these people are still following this man to this day. I hate that more than likely Rebecca's mom is still following this and these teachings and all these other things. I really, really do. A Cayenne luxury sports SUV valued at more than $100,000 and other European luxury cars worth almost $1 million in total. $1 million on cars to keep him hidden. When Duran told me Isaac and Naomi were released without charges, I felt momentarily grateful. Then it hit me. They had known damn well that our people were going without food so the prophet would be safe. Their hands were far from clean. Exactly, they shouldn't have been released. A few weeks later, Lauren was extradited from Nevada to appropriately named Purgatory Correctional Facility in Utah. At the end of the month, I was celebrating my birthday at a realtor golf tournament when I received a surprise call from my mother, whom I hadn't heard from since the day after Fred's funeral. I'm sure he used the fact that he was in Purgatory Correctional as a something else that the people were to blame for. Let me keep going. Well, hello, Mom. To what do I owe the pleasure? Oh, I just called to check on you, she responded vaguely. Happy birthday. It's Kyle's birthday too, I said, a little irritated. Had she so quickly forgotten her grandson? Oh, she fumbled. I'm calling to wish him a happy birthday too, of course. There was a nervous silence, and I could tell something was wrong. Something was putting her up to this and probably listening in from another line. You know there is still an outstanding missing persons report to the girl, she finally said, her voice shaky. So you can only call me because you want me to get rid of this report when I already told you I needed to see the girl. I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it, y'all. The compassion is leaving my body. It's leaving me. I can't feel it. Oh, goodness. Why don't you talk to them? I gasped and my heart soared. My sisters. Allie, I said when she put her on the line. I let her talk for a bit. Where am I at? I lost my spot. Oh, okay. I let her talk for a bit, just reveling in her voice. Then I said, remember that song I used to sing to you? I see the moon and the moon sees me. Kyle and I sing that to you every night, knowing we're looking at the same moon. I could tell she was grateful, but her voice was filled with tension. Sherry, on the other hand, sounded scripted and rehearsed. Sure, love ya. Pray for you every day. I asked them to put Mom back on. Okay, Mom, what's really going on? She hesitated for another moment. Well, honey, we've gotten word that someone is threatening the priesthood with litigation. Someone is pressing charges against Uncle Warren. Is it you? I wasn't about to throw Elisa under the bus. In the charges she filed with Washington County, prosecutors were using the name Jane Doe to protect her. The FLDS knew there were several people who could have been pressing charges, similar charges, and the less they knew, the better. I had never lied to my mother, though so I chose my words with care. I honestly don't know who all has charges against Warren, I said. It could be a lot of different people. I'm not involved in the lives of all the people who have left, but I'd like you to think about something for a moment. Take away the names and faces of the people in power. Just look at the actions, look at the facts. Can you tell me that forcing any young girl to participate in a marriage against her will is inspired? Can you tell me that is of God? Honey, God and the prophet do right, Mom. There is a reason it is illegal to marry 12 and 13-year-olds. Silence. Thank you, Rebecca. Because this is the part that I struggle with. Is one thing to force these girls to do this thing. It's a whole nother thing to do it when they're just little girls. It's sick. Okay, I said, switching tracks. Mom, is truth truth? Yes. Okay, if truth is truth, will it be seen from all angles then? Yes. Then why are you afraid to see the truth come out? Honey, you know people don't understand us. Now wait a minute. If truth is truth, then it will stand up to scrutiny, like the scripture in Matthew, by their fruits ye shall know them. Look at the fruits, Mom. When Elisa was being forced to marry, did you honestly feel peace within you? I longed to scream into the phone. When you knew she was being raped and beaten repeatedly, was that sweet fruit to you? Oh, wow. She didn't scream that, but she wanted to. Finally, she responded, I would rather see all of my children lying in a grave than for any one of them to challenge the priesthood. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. You've witnessed the priesthood beat your kids. You've witnessed the priesthood have your kids be addicted to all types of things because of the torment that they face. You witnessed the priesthood be okay with even disciplining you, separating you from your kids and your family at a certain point. But you rather see your kids dead than have them go against the very men who've damaged them. Y'all, this is deep. This is deep. I'm mad. My blood ran cold. Her programming was so intense that to her this was the ultimate battle between right and wrong, God and man. The church would be right no matter how many lives were ruined. I got off the phone shaking. I decided it was healthiest to try to move on with my life as much as possible. But a few weeks later, I got a call from the district attorney office in St. George requesting an interview about Elisa's case with a deputy DA and a sergeant from Washington County. I was apprehensive when I met them in Boise, B-O-I-S-E, but they were respectful and professional. The police sergeant, Jake, told me that growing up as a Christian teenager, he loved to play basketball. In order to join different church leagues, he and his equally obsessed basketball buddies had to go to church at Sunday school, Mormon Catholic Church of the Nazarenes, you named it. He chuckled. Every one of them had this attitude on some level. We're right and everyone else is wrong and damned. We can't all be wrong and damned, can we? He made me laugh, which made it easier just to be there. At first, they asked easy questions about being raised in the FLDS, especially my experience as a girl in the community. When they asked if I would share my experience as a married woman in the FLDS, they both took meticulous notes. I can only speak of what I've experienced firsthand, I said carefully. I do not believe one person can speak for the entire FLDS population in this regard. There are well more than 10,000 members now. Different women may have different experiences. They both nodded. And I proceeded to explain the situation with Rulon. The fact that she's now willing to talk about this shows that she's done the work as well, because we read in previous chapters that that was off limits for her. Now, she had that really rude and messed up person that wasn't being considerate of how it was affecting her when they were asking questions. But it seems like these people are going in this trying to get knowledge for their case, but also realizing that she's human and that she experienced this. Every time I had tried to tell Ben about my marriage to Rulon, He had gotten so disgusted and angry with me, he interrupted with, "Ew. Why did you let him do that to you, Becky? What? Ben, go away. Ben, go away. Go away, Ben. Go away. Go away. Go away. Galang, galang. Ain't no way. What do you mean? Let him do that. It wasn't an option. Ben, I hope you go seek help. And I hope you seek it like immediately. I hope you've done some work after all of this, because that is crazy. Okay, let me keep going. Why did you let him do that to you, Beck? As if I had control over my body or my destiny as Rulon's wife. By contrast, both of these men were exceptionally compassionate as I explained why I didn't like Rulon to touch me and how Warren threatened my life if I said no to my husband. Finally, I explained how painful intercourse was for me because of my accident, especially because Rulon hadn't bothered to be gentle. As I proceeded to tell them about him forcing me to perform oral sex, though I had to break eye contact. At that time, I hadn't known that even young people did those kinds of things to each other in a consensual sex. All I had ever been taught was anything even remotely like that was bad, sick, and wrong. And then suddenly the prophet was physically forcing me to do it, which shows how much more damaging that was to her in that moment, that you taught her that this was something vile that she shouldn't do. And then the prophet goes and makes her do it. It was hard for me to get those words out. And as I looked down, I noticed that Jake's free hand was clenching into a fist on his lap. He was shaking with rage. I was floored, except for Cole. No man had ever been angry at Rulon and Warren for what they had done to me. Not even her own husband, y'all. Not even her own husband was upset at what that man did to her. He was blaming her. The way that these people have been messed up in the brain. Before we parted, I had gained an unexpected sense of trust in these two men. I felt like these guys would go to bat for me. What would life have been like if the FLDS, if I had known that there were people like this out there? Despite my intense terror and shame, that interview was a paradigm shift. Even beyond my experiences with Sheriff Duran, I began to trust the process and what it would be like to help others, especially my sisters. Returning home, I focused on my work and family again. Ben seemed to respect me more as I began doing well in my new field, developing relationships with lenders and clients and learning the ropes quickly. Real estate in 2006 was booming and everyone was looking for agents, but ethics and values were constantly challenged in that industry. I had interviewed with one broker who told me, "With your looks, we'll make a lot of money." This seemed to parallel what I experienced in the church, and I stayed far away from him and his brokerage. Instead, I found a firm that cared about me for who I was and the work I could perform. It was greatly empowering. And that is where we're stopping today. The way this chapter burned me up, Ben, I'm looking at you sideways. To the mama of Rebecca, I'm looking at you sideways too. I understand that this is what they're taught and all those things. I'm just grateful that I never was raised like this. I am. There are times where I have felt cheated because of the belief system that I used to be a part in. And here's the thing. Seventh-day Adventists are some of the greatest people. But like any religion, there are some people who make it really, really tough and really, really hard and could be very judgmental. And I'm reading this book and I'm hearing the things that she went through and the fact that these men violated her the way that they did and she still expected to just take it. No, fight back, Rebecca, in any way that you can. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you thought of this chapter. Like the video as it helps the channel. Until next time, peace.